And because we have to work, not in the gym because the gym's so small, the studio's so small, we have to go and work in coffee shops and things like that. I drafted that second email and I hit send, right? And I was in a busy coffee shop and I hit send. And now, whether this is a coincidence or not, I don't know, but I'm going to pretend it's not because I'm going to just feel really cool. In the coffee shop, there is about 3 or 4 ding, 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 ding of phones going off when I hit send for that email. And I am 99% sure that was our email landing into all of those different people's inboxes.
That's so cool.
So we're going to talk about a topic that is close to your heart today.
Yeah. My kids?
No. Sales.
Oh, a topic that's closer to my heart.
Yes.
Sales.
Yeah, you misheard me.
Yeah.
So yeah, for any of you who are listening, our duo, just to kind of go through our roles. Again, I do everything marketing. Jack does everything sales, essentially. So we always say, like, I get people in the room and Jack keeps them there. So you're going to lead a lot of this conversation. I'm going to undoubtedly butt in now and again when it makes sense. But we're actually going to talk to you how to master the sales consultations in your fitness studio. So from the minute a prospect lands into your inbox or an appointment is booked, how do you actually go through that whole process to give yourself the best possible chance of that person converting and then becoming either a member on your challenge or a monthly member?
This conversation is, so over the years, I've read, at this point, hundreds of sales books, right? I love sales. I've never actually had a direct job in sales. I just had a big passion for it. Over the years, obviously, we've had high-ticket sales where we've sold high-ticket items, low-ticket sales, and now in-person sales. So this conversation, the frameworks and the steps we're going to give the audience today is kind of all of that knowledge and experience wrapped up in exactly how we do things here at Revamp. One book that I thought was amazing on the gym side of things was Alex Hormozy brought out a book years ago. Everyone obviously knows about 100 million offers and 100 million leads. But before that, he brought out a book called, was it Gym Launch?
Gym Launch Secrets.
Gym Launch Secrets, yeah. Really good book. And he goes a lot into sales. And we used some of those frameworks in what we do today. And then we layered on top our own frameworks and our own experience with selling high ticket for many, many years. So we're going to go through the 3 key steps. So anyone who gets in the room with you can have the highest opportunity of closing. But just from a why you should listen to us perspective, hopefully you're here because you feel like you should listen to us if you're listening to this. But I think since we opened Revamp in October, we've closed at around 94% on sales to a 299 front end product. So if you can copy us, close at 94%, I'll be really happy for you.
By the way, that can mean one or two things. One, our price point is way too low. Or two, you're pretty good at sales.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the former. No. So we're going to go through how we're achieving that and what the main steps are. So,
and well, just to quickly before we begin, like how many sales consultations do you think we've taken since? I mean, we're recording this in July. We launched in October of last year. So that's been what, 9 months, 10 months? Can't really count. How many consultations do you think you've taken in that time? I mean, I know the actual number, I think, if I was to go onto our spreadsheet, but like just off the top of your head, like it must be way over 100.
I was going to say about 150.
Yeah. I'd say more than that.
Yeah, possibly 150 to 180, something like that. I don't think it's over 200, but it'd be fun to know the numbers.
Yeah.
And we haven't got a laptop, but it's definitely around that number. Because I was doing like kind of 10 to 15 a day at one point when we were launching the studio. Just me sitting in my chair in a plyo box.
Yeah, like that is our like rags to riches story of, I mean, when we launched this studio, because it's such a small space, there's no room for like a seating area or an appointment room or the consultation, whatever. So yeah, we had to make do with what we had. So there was literally a plyo box with clipboards on top and a fold up chair. And you sat in that chair back to back. And I reckon a majority of those 100 appointments were done during that 10 days.
Yeah.
And that's not even exaggerating.
I had a sore ass.
Yeah. And I think you were like, had a chest infection for like weeks after that because you just felt so ill from having to talk and just be on it the whole time. And I remember thinking of like, because obviously my job when it comes to marketing and acquisition, before they get into the sales room is like getting everybody there. So I felt really bad because I kind of felt like my job was like strung out over like 10 weeks. And I was just kind of take it easy, send an email, lead up letter every week, upload a Facebook post. And then your work was
went through hell.
Your work was like condensed into 10 days. And I just sat back looking at the CCTV and trying to give you some motivation.
You were the Winston Churchill of your time. You planned for 10 weeks on this massive occasion, and then Jack led in at D-Day to do the really hard work.
I don't know if you can compare acquiring gym members to D-Day, but anyway, that's for another podcast.
Easiest analogy I could think of.
So I thought it'd be quite cool to actually role play this whole podcast. I mean,
Okay.
You're the first person in my life that actually might want to role play. So I'm going to take advantage of that. So I'm going to pretend.
This feels like we should have a black leather sofa.
I was scared of what you were going to say then. So I thought it'd be quite cool to, be the prospect, you be Jack.
Okay.
And we'll see how this goes.
Well, I think before we do that, I want to say that any sales consult should feel like a doctor's appointment. We've said that before. When you go to the doctors and they assess you and then get you to try and spend money on a prescription or some medication, you always say yes, right? So the close rate of doctors is extremely high. And I want the sales consult to feel like an experience, to feel like a doctor's appointment for the individual coming in. So it's really important that step one, you set up the room to be successful, right? So when the individual comes in, they see table chairs there, and you could even go down to the chairs being on the same side of the table, so it doesn't feel like an interview, it feels like a partnership.
That's what Hormozy says.
Exactly that. So it's really, really important that you get these things right. And for me, it was a plier box, 2 chairs, the same side, so we could guide them through the process. Okay, so that's really important. One thing that we added to this was to play calm music. So we had like a chilled vibe playlist. Or do you know like those IB for chill out playlists?
Oh yeah.
You know, you buy the swimming pool.
Yeah.
You're chilling out. You know, the IB for DJs behind you playing the chill out playlist. Not that I've ever been there before in my life, but I can just imagine it.
But you want to like create a relaxed atmosphere, right? Like you don't want people coming in and there's like gym music going on in the background. And
yeah,
I think there must be some kind of scientific reason as to why like playing calm, soothing music actually helps calm you, and what it does, you know, in the body to calm you.
Yeah, 100%. We need to remove potential distractions. So there's no like TV playing in the background, or ideally you want a room with just you and the prospect in there.
Well, the way this studio works as well, like the door is on the latch, so people can just walk in if they need. So it's important that obviously we make sure that the door is actually shut. That's happened to me a few times where I've been in here and I've had to cover some of like the progress check-ins, and I haven't actually shut the door properly, and people have been walking in halfway through, and it just doesn't. It kind of removes all the flow of the conversation.
Yeah. So we just want to make sure that we set up that professional environment. So that's step one, making sure the room is set up and ready to go. And another big thing, actually, by the way, when the prospect enters the room, so they actually can't enter the studio unless we open the door. So that just means when they get here, I open the door and they're welcome to a smiley face, a nice handshake to say hello.
Well, that moves us into the step 2.
It does. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, I was going to jump ahead. But remember, we're role playing this.
Yes.
So I'm going to pretend to be Jackie.
Right.
I don't know why I'm trying to be a woman here when I could just be a man.
Well, so Jackie and Jack.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to be Jackie. Okay. I'm not going to do a voice. And we have a 5 A's framework of exactly the flow and the choreography you should follow for every sales consultation. So do we want to just kind of quickly whip through what those A's stand for, and then we can just run through what an example might look
sure.
like?
So number 1 is acknowledge. Okay. Number 2 is ask. Number 3 is assess. Number 4 is articulate. And number 5 is accept.
Okay, cool. So the number 1 is acknowledge. So pretending I'm Jackie, I knock on the door, you answer the door.
Jackie, hi, good to see you. I'm Jack. Can you do it in a girl's voice, please?
Hi, Jack.
Oh my. Henry is absolutely wetting himself. Okay, don't do it in a girl's voice anymore.
Hi, Jack.
Great. Jackie, are you from nearby? Do you live nearby?
Yeah, just down the road, actually.
Okay, great. So not long to get here?
No, not at all. Just a quick walk.
Okay, fantastic. Jackie, please take a seat.
No worries. And then, so by the way, what you've just done there is acknowledge, and you've also made sure to shake hands. I think that's important. Whenever I see you do that, again, and when you have like eye contact with the prospect and just make them feel like the most important person in the world, I think that's a good move as well.
And 1 or 2 minutes of chitty chatter.
Chitty chatter.
Have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street where Belfort's sitting there opposite the Swiss bank guy? And they're all having a chat around the table, and then Jordan Belfort just goes straight in with a serious question, and then the guy says it's customary in Swiss culture to have 5 minutes of, as you say, chitty chatter, and I think you want to try and create 1 or 2 minutes of just chitty chatter. So finding out how long it took them to get here, how their journey was, where they parked, all those kind of things.
Just acknowledging their presence in the room.
To them, yeah, and it might be that they know someone that comes here already, and you want to have a quick laugh and a joke about that. Like it's making sure that they feel safe and seen when they come in here.
Cool. Okay, so once I've sat down, I'm next to you at a chair and table. What do they have in front of them?
So they have a questionnaire in front of them. But what I want to make sure I do with Jackie is let her know exactly what the 30 minutes is going to consist of. Okay, so she's not going to be thrown off at any point. So I'm going to say, so Jackie, today's going to be about 30 minutes, if that's okay.
Yep, that's okay.
Great. Okay, awesome. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to ask you to do this questionnaire, which is here in front of you on the clipboard. Okay. And then once you've done that, we're going to go on to a movement assessment, okay, which we call a movement analysis. Which will take about 5 minutes, and then finally we're just going to go on to body composition test, okay? Which obviously we mentioned in the email to you. Is that okay if we do those things?
Absolutely fine.
Awesome. So I'm just gaining permission that it's okay for her to jump on body composition, and then finally I'm going to talk to you about what Revamp's about, how we can help, and if this aligns with each other. Does that sound good?
Yep, sounds perfect.
Great. So I'm going to get that done in 30 minutes, I promise, and then you'll be out the door, hopefully with a big smile on your face.
Sounds good.
Great. So Jackie, if you can just fill out this questionnaire right here. I'm not going to distract you. I'm going to leave you for 2 or 3 minutes. Otherwise, it will take forever, and I have a tendency to distract you. So I'm not going to do that. All right. And they always laugh. Yeah, very funny, Jack. Cool. And then they'll go into filling the questionnaire out.
Perfect. Okay. So what we've covered there is number 1, the first A in the 5 A's is acknowledge. So you've acknowledged their presence. You've invited them into the room. You've asked them to take a seat down. You've had chitty chatter. And the second A that we've just covered there is ask. So that is when you actually provide a questionnaire for them to answer some questions around what life is like for them at the moment in terms of their health and fitness.
So now I want to transition into assess, but I want to make sure I acknowledge what they've just done from a questionnaire standpoint. So I'm going to grab the questionnaire and I'm going to go down the questions of this questionnaire and ask like leading questions from what they've put there. Okay, so it might be leading questions on goals where I just chunk down what the goal is. So it might be weight loss, and I can just chunk down why they want to lose weight and dive into the psychology around them losing weight. And very often, especially in a one-to-one environment, they're going to really open up on why. And sometimes that creates emotions. So I would make sure that you have a box of tissues in the studio, so you can provide the prospect with those should they need them, and like a bottle of water or something is what we do. And then I'll go through them, and that'll be about 2 to 3 minutes of just me asking leading questions, getting to know the prospect more from the questionnaire. And then I'd transition into the body movement analysis.
Which is the assess part.
Yes. So I'll say, Jackie, thanks so much for doing that. And what I'd like to do is the analysis part, as I mentioned earlier. So then I'll stand them up. And this is where it's going to feel like they're being coached already, which is really important. Going back to the doctor's appointment, we want to make them feel like they're already getting a service and experience with us. So we'll look at shoulder, hip, knee, and so hinge and ankle. So we do like a soleus stretch piece to see what flexion they have through the ankle. We see what flexion they have through the scapula, how overhead is with presses and things like that. So we'll go through that, and that will be between 2 and 4 minutes, something like that, where we'll just assess and see where they're at. So that's an important piece. And then we'll go straight on to body composition, where we will go through their metrics from body fat percentage, muscle, visceral fat, like metabolism, all that kind of stuff. Again, like the scales that we have provides like 15 to 20 metrics. I only want to really run through like the 5 key metrics within the scales, because otherwise it becomes...
You don't want to overcomplicate it.
Exactly, like super overwhelm and everything that comes in. So we'll go through 5, and then once we've done that, they'll then take a seat. Okay, so I will give feedback on the body analysis and the composition, so they can see where they're at and where they should be. And that often is a big gap. And they're often quite surprised at that, or quite like taken back, depending on who the lead is. So then once I've done that, I'll then invite them to take a seat.
I think like in any sales, that establishing that gap is what's most important, isn't it? It's like figuring out exactly what your prospect wants to achieve, figuring out exactly where they are right now, and then establishing the route in order to get where they want to achieve to where they are now, and having that gap in place.
Any good sales guy or girl should assess that gap and then provide almost like a prescription of how they get there and how they close the gap. So for example, in the high ticket world, when someone used to say, right now I'm at £5,000 a month, and then their goal is to get to 10, they've got a £5,000 gap there. So how are they going to close that gap? And what actions do they need to take? Because that's what they need to know. Then they want guidance on how to do that, right?
Got you.
But that proves that you can be the person to help them close it. And it's exactly the same with fitness. So if they want to be 85 kilograms, currently they're at 95, there's a 10 kg gap there. What are we going to do in sessions? And then when I'm going through what we do at Revamp, I can lead back to that's how we are going to solve that 10 kg gap.
And add relevancy, and just making sure that this is why I love in-person sales. This is going on a little bit of tangent, but like there's rarely, we're so used to high ticket sales online. Like doing stuff in person where they actually are in the room, you can set up so many different things to optimize the experience of that sales process. Like it isn't just limited to the conversation, like we mentioned earlier. It's the music, it's the feel of the place, it's like just where everything is positioned, like having member photos up on the wall that they can see during the consult, and things like that you can actually really control that you can't do online.
I talk to our clients about it being like choreography.
Yeah,
like a dance teacher setting up a really awesome choreography set, if that's a thing. It's no different. So you got to tap into the psychology of your prospect, because if they have the intent to leave their house, drive to the studio, park up, walk to the studio, they already have intent.
Yep.
So they just want for you to show them a pathway to what they want to achieve. So that's the key thing.
Hey, quick one from us. If you're enjoying this episode, you'll love our free weekly newsletter.
It's for current and aspiring studio owners who are looking for the latest growth hacks to sign up more members and keep them.
It's a quick 2-minute email covering the stuff we're testing in our own gyms.
So you'll be getting access to what's working today.
If you're interested, you can join 3,500 gym owners and go to thefitpreneur.com and subscribe.
That's thefitpreneur.com. Anyway, back to the episode.
We've acknowledged, we've asked, we've assessed, which now brings us to the next.
So I invite them back to sit down again where they were. At the table or the plier box for us. And next, it's articulate. So what I want to make sure I do is take them through exactly what we do here and how it's going to help them benefit them, not just now, but in long term as well. So I'll sit down and we've got a specific sales deck we go through. So this is what we added into this sales process because it's quite important to us. So I'll have my laptop out on the plier box or an iPad, or you can do this with whatever. You can do this with a TV technically, but I would just try and sit down so they can focus on something. And I'll go through our 3 pillars at Revamp, which is the first thing we go to. And then I'll break down each of those pillars and how it's going to help them get to where they want to be. And then I'll go through like Revamp, what they get within their challenge, okay, and why we're different to other studios. And then once I've done that, I'll go into like the technical side of things of what else they get. So I'll go into the community group they get and how they can tap into that community. I'll go through on how they work the app and how simple it is to book sessions and cancel sessions and things like that. And then I'll go into social proof. I'll have a piece on there, like a screen with loads of before and afters of some amazing clients who have worked with us and our coaches. And then finally, once I've done that, there's a next step screen, a next step slide, okay? Now on that next step slide, it literally says next steps in the middle of the screen. And then around there is hundreds of photos of new Revamp members holding up their Revamp t-shirt. This is the big piece, right? So the key thing is a prospect wants to sit there and have that confirmation bias that we spoke about a few episodes ago on how many people have already signed up to the offer they're about to be presented, right? That's the biggest thing. Now, it's even better. A lot of those people holding those t-shirts look like the type of prospects we have in here, right? So 90% of our membership are female 40 to 60. Yeah. We can see that by our data. So 90% of those 100 people holding t-shirts on the screen are female 40 to 60. So our clientele are going to see that, which is, again, another tick.
Not only that, like the benefit of being in the local area is that some of those people will literally be people that they know and they're friends with.
Yeah. We've had that many times. Oh, that's.
I've got a funny story to mention after we've obviously finished this point, but yeah.
So that's really, really important. That's why the sales deck is set up like it is. Again, going back to the choreography piece, it's all there for a reason. And the biggest reason that next step page is there, because when I present them with the offer, when you talk about money, people don't want to look you in the eyes. So you want to give them an opportunity to look at something else, right? And they're not going to just look at the wall because that looks really rude. But if they've been presented something already in front of them, they're going to look at that. Mm-hmm. So a high percentage of people, when I talk about how much the cost is, will just stare at that next step screen of all of those people who have already become Revamp members. So it just leads on that bias.
Yep, and there's bandwagon effect, there's confirmation bias, there's recency bias, it's like everything rolled into one. And that is so powerful. We added that like a week into the consults. Because again, at that point, we were looking for like marginal gains, weren't we? And that's a huge reason as to why our close rate is so good, is because we really pay attention to those tiny little details that perhaps many people don't. Which now leads us on to the fifth and final A of our framework. So we've had acknowledge, ask, assess, articulate, and now it's accept. And I think this is often overlooked. Like, I think there has to be an ethical approach to sales, obviously. And I think one thing that we've stayed true to is we've gone by this statement, and I don't know who said it originally, but like sales is about making the right decision for the prospect. Okay? So if you know what you have is going to solve their problem and get them the solution they're looking for, then you are duty bound to sell your product, right? And get them to say yes.
You're doing them a disservice if you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the mindset that I think a lot of people lack. But if you know inherently that this probably isn't a good fit, or this might not necessarily align with what they're looking to achieve, then again, you're duty bound to actually not sell your service. So I think like as long as you keep coming back to that statement of, I need to make the best decision for them, and I'm the most qualified in terms of knowing whether my service is a good fit for them. That's kind of the approach that I think many people should take, because there's been plenty of people that have come here and you've had an in-person consult with them, and you just got the feeling that actually they probably won't be a great fit for the community, or perhaps their goals are a little kind of misaligned with what our vision and our ethos is here. And actually, if they were to sign up, then you may risk them having a little bit of buyer's remorse, or perhaps resenting the service or resenting ours, and then perhaps spreading that, that negativity. In which case, it's very simple for us. We just don't take their money.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So talk me through in terms of how that final close goes when obviously you've gone through that sales deck and it comes down to the decision of actually I need.
Okay, cool. I want to go through the exact wording I use. I think that'll be good because you're still Jackie, right?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay, great. So that next step screen is up, sitting in front of them, and I say, cool. So Jackie, next steps. Okay. Now the idea is I want to take them on to what's about to happen, not straight to price. It's really important. So I'm going to talk to them right now like they're going to sign up. They're going to do the gateway offer. They're going to sign up to the 6 weeks. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's how I'm going to talk to them. So I say, and this is all true, by the way. We absolutely do not believe in saying things that are false to make sure someone signs up. You have to make sure the stuff that you say is true. Otherwise, you've lost trust forever if anyone calls you out. Okay. And that's really important. So what I say is, Jackie, so we used to do cohorts where everyone started at the same time, okay? But because we haven't got much room left, okay, and we're now reaching a point where we're at capacity, people sign up to the 6-week challenge and they start straight away, okay? You don't have to wait for the rest of your cohort to be in place. So after this time together, 3 things are going to happen. You're going to get an email okay, with 3 things to do. Number 1 is to download the app so you can start booking sessions. Okay. Number 2 is to fill out a PARQ so we can communicate anything health-wise with all of our coaches. Okay, so they know you're coming. And number 3 is to join the Facebook community. Okay, the community group. Okay, so you can have a lot of fun in there. Okay, so that's the 3 things. Cost-wise is £299 for the 6 weeks. Okay, that works out as £16 per session. Okay, and I think apart from that, Jackie, there's nothing else for me to go through. Have you got any questions?
No, I don't think I do.
Great. Should we get you signed up to the challenge?
Yeah.
Cool.
So talk through exactly what you just did there.
So
Because I'm bought in, I'm signed up now.
yeah, so I obviously went through the 3 things they're going to have next. They're going to get next. So like their future is so clear on what's going to happen next.
And
right?
and that's not 4 things, 5 things, 2 things. Like 3 things. 3 is a magic number. Like if you can break down steps into 3 actions, then usually that gets more buy-in and more. It's more memorable.
Yeah. So the first thing I obviously did was I went. Look, we used to do cohorts, but now we're full or get into capacity. Mm-hmm. Right. Look, we do. One signs up, one starts straight away. And that's true. We used to do cohorts here, and now people were signing up and just jumping into the challenge straight away. And that obviously tells that prospect that this might be their last chance to ever sign up with us.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really important.
So you've signaled the supply and demand balance.
Yeah. And then I go into the 3 things that's going to happen next. So they have future and they're not surprised about an email that comes through. Okay. And I'm talking at them like this is going to be a really simple process. And obviously it's really important that they can see we communicate with our coaches. Anyone who's new that comes on board, they know as well.
One thing I also think you did there, again, tapping into the psychology is using the bandwagon effect of you're not just saying here's what you do, you sign up, you book your session, you do this. You're talking actually about everyone else. You're saying people sign up, people book their sessions, people, so it's like you're describing something which other people are already doing who've taken the step that they're about to take, which I think is added proof in terms of, whether they should take that step as well.
And then finally after that, I broke down price, where I said it's $299. I broke down the per session because very, very often when people think about personal training, they link it straight back to a one-on-one price.
Yep.
So if I say $299, that works out as £16 a session, okay, which is bang on the maths. They get so many people go, God, blimey, that's reasonable. Because they link it back to the 40 that it might have paid Jimbo before to PT them one-to-one.
It's like those software companies that say it's 30p a day.
Yeah. So they break down. There's a reason for them doing that.
Yeah.
So they can see the value and it's broken down to them. And then finally, I asked them if they had any questions. So sometimes there are questions you want to fight because you want to be able to fight questions before you get a clear yes or no. That's really, really important. So they can't be any kind of vague thing happening after you ask them that final question of whether they want to join the challenge. And then I asked them the yes question.
Yeah, there's no option in that question to say no, is there?
It's a yes question. So I say, cool, shall we get you signed up to the challenge? And I look them in the eyes and I have a big grin on my face. Should we get you signed up to the challenge?
You're enthusiastic. They're feeling your energy. And we said this the other day, didn't we? I don't think we've actually ever had a no in person. We've only ever had I'll just need to go home and have a think about it, which obviously translates to no in most cases. But when people, especially British people, they don't like saying no to people. So they'll often try and be polite. But the energy that you just provided there and the way it was so direct and you didn't kind of beat around the bush, you didn't make it very, unclear. At that point, when you're trying to sell somebody onto a service, you need to actually sell them onto a service. You need to actually ask them the question as to whether they want to sign up or not. And that's exactly what you did.
Yeah, we don't want to say, cool, so go away, have a think about it. Because you've provided them with an amazing 30-minute experience. They have all the information they need to be able to make an informed decision. Right?
Yeah. And also using that analogy of a doctor's appointment, if you're needing medication for something, then you're not very likely to go and say, okay, I'm going to go and have a think about it for a couple of weeks. Because if you're prescribed medication that's going to help solve your issue, then you're going to get signed up on that medication, aren't you? If you're going to the doctors. Yep,
100%. So then once I ask that yes question, I get 94% of the time a yes. 6% of the time I'll get, do you mind if I just go off and talk to my partner, or do you mind if I have a think about it, or do I have to decide now? And then I can deal with those those issues and the objections as they arise. I'm not a huge fan of like testing people on the spot, especially in face-to-face consults. So some people will talk about when you say like, I just need to go talk to my partner. Some people will say, okay, no problem at all. Like, what would he say? Or what would she say?
And digging into it.
Yeah, and trying to dig into it. I'm not a huge fan of that, frankly.
It's also, we've got a reputation to uphold here. And like, we're in a fortunate position where we haven't got many spaces to fill. So it becomes less about how do we get people to fill those spaces and more about how do we find the best people to fill those spaces that are going to provide the longest value. So it's like, actually by asking those questions and digging into objections and ultimately manipulating somebody to say yes, you might have a little bit more kind of short-term cash for that front-end offer, but you're going to end up with somebody that is just completely misaligned with your service.
I think the biggest thing is you're right there, but to lead on to it, we want members, not front ends.
Yep.
Right? So if I push Jackie to something that she's not quite sure about, the chances that she's going to resent me a little for that. So she's either going to go away, speak to the person she wanted to speak to, and they're going to say absolutely not, and she's going to want a refund. Or she's going to go away, find the guy who got her to sign up for something at Revamp a little annoying, and then she's going to resent as she goes through the challenge. She's not going to sign up to a member anyway.
And what happens there is because there's capacity, she's taking somebody else's spot who probably would have been a good fit.
Exactly. So that's just the way we see it. Obviously, others feel differently. I just feel like if you get this 30 minutes absolutely bang on, you provide an amazing experience, you're going to get way, way more yeses than no's.
100%. Well, we've covered all the 5 A's there. So we've got acknowledge, ask, assess, articulate, accept. Acknowledge, giving them a warm greeting, making sure that they feel welcome, holding eye contact, shaking hands, all of that usual stuff. Ask, which is providing a questionnaire to actually understand their fitness goals, establishing that gap and how you're going to help close it. Assess, where you run through like a complementary body composition and a movement analysis, making sure that you're taking the role of the coach from day dot. Articulate, actually presenting what your offer is and using the sales deck to visualize that and tapping into psychology as well. And finally, accept. So if you can help, remember, you've got to make the best decision for the prospect. And if the best decision for the prospect is signing up to your front end challenge, then invite them onto the challenge, take payment and roll them into the offer. And keep the process smooth, like you said, in terms of having those 3 steps in place. I don't think we'll go through, I've got on my notes here about kind of talking a little bit more about the actual sales deck itself, but I think we could probably cover that either in another podcast episode, but I think we covered a lot of that already in this episode.
We went through a lot of that. I think the one thing that I didn't mention was the team of coaches page that we have within the sales deck, so the coaches' faces. And then I talk about the joint experience that they have all together. And who those people are, so they can almost get to know the team before they've even joined. That's a really good one to have in there. I think one thing I'll say without making it too like in the details, body mirroring is really important. So when you're sitting over from the client, if they lean forward to tell you something, you lean forward. If they lean back, you lean back. Right?
Not too far because you're falling off your chair.
No,
that happened, by the way, when you were away on holiday and I had to take a few progress check-ins. I couldn't get the grips with these fold-up chairs. I sat down and I fell over.
Yeah, they do go sideways sometimes.
That wasn't a good look.
Yeah,
like when I did that. Can I just like end on a funny story of actually what happened this morning, really briefly? So we're experimenting with like a 5-day email broadcast like sequence at the moment, and just seeing whether we can actually leverage our waiting list on our email list and try and get some appointments booked in. So we're not actually running ads for this whole cycle. We're just going to test ourselves organically. And so today was like day 2 of that email broadcast, right? And because we have to work not in the gym because the gym's so small, the studio's so small, we have to go and work in coffee shops and things like that. I drafted that second email and I hit send, right? And I was in a busy coffee shop and I hit send. Now, whether this is a coincidence or not, I don't know, but I'm going to pretend it's not because I'm going to just feel really cool. In the coffee shop, there was about 3 or 4 ding, 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 ding of phones going off when I hit send for that email. And I am 99% sure that was our email landing into all of those different people's inboxes.
That's so cool.
And it just made me smile of like that is the value of like a local business and running your local business the way that we're running it, which is really streamlined, getting people onto an email list and sending them information. But I just thought that was, quite a cool.
That is cool.
Cool ending to this podcast. Do you want to wrap up? Do you want to like summarize, or do you think we've done a good job at that?
I think we've done a pretty good job. Obviously, step 1, set the room, make sure things are set up, calm music on, remove all distractions, Chitty chatter, invite them to acknowledge, right? So we go through the 5 A's: acknowledge, ask, assess, articulate, accept, which is step 2. And those are the key bits, really. Obviously, I haven't gone into how you take payment and all that kind of stuff because everyone's CRMs and stuff going to be different. We just do it very, very streamlined, take payment there and then send them off with a lovely gift where they have a t-shirt, a new founder member t-shirt in a Revamp bag with a nice welcome card inside. We send them off with that gift so they're super happy. We don't shake hands when they leave the room, we fist bump.
Yeah, that's a rule of Revamps is that when you come here, you fist bump. I made the mistake the other day. David, one of our clients, came up to me and said, "Hey, Jake, how are you doing?" He presented his fist, to which I shook his fist.
Yeah.
And
nice.
he didn't appreciate it whatsoever. And I said, "I'm so sorry, I've forgotten our number 1 rule."
I bet he loved it. So yeah, there we go, guys.
Just quickly on that. I said, that's not the Revamp etiquette. And he goes, "I'll show you what the Revamp etiquette is." And he used his fist to pretend to punch me in the face.
Oh, okay, cool.
But that's how we treat each other here.
Yeah, that is camaraderie. Love it. Cool. Let's wrap up there. Hopefully this was useful for everyone. Make sure we've got to do that subscribe thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. You share this podcast with a friend who you know it would provide value to. We're over and out. Jake, thanks again.
Thank you.
That's the pod.